Hi everybody, how's it going? Kirsty here, Goddess of Neptune. Just bringing you an astrology overview for the Venus transit into Taurus. And for us here in the UK, GMT, those on British Standard Time, it will be happening at 22:35. That's when Venus goes into Taurus, 0 degrees. I will, of course, pull up the chart very shortly, and then we can have a look at what other aspects are going on that drew my attention, certainly. But we know that there's been this essence of change going on for a while. With Venus moving into Taurus, coming out of that Aries energy, moving into Taurus, there is that element of showing ourselves that love because we've got the energy of love supporting that. When it comes to our worth and values, of course, Taurus is all about our worth and our values. So when it comes to our self-worth, owning our values and truly understanding our self-worth, where is it we need to show ourselves a bit of love, a bit of nurturing, a bit of attention, that Venus energy? Because that's also what's been coming up to the surface, certainly with the aspects going on within Aries with the Jupiter and Chiron conjunction and those illumination of wounds, Saturn being in Pisces, letting us know about these lessons, you know, what lessons have not been cleared out, what lessons need to be learnt still. And also Pluto, last degrees of Capricorn, still calling for that deep transformation. So the energy of change has been around us for a while. Certainly Uranus is there still reminding us of change. And Uranus is in the same sign as Venus will be, of course, when Venus moves into Taurus, because Uranus is there in Taurus already. So calling for change when it comes to our worth and values. The North Node is also there. So the truth about all of this, the reality that we need to face relating to our worth and values, and the opposite sign being Scorpio, looking at those opposing forces with the North Node and South Node, but also recognizing using that energy to work together is almost that deep realization, not illusion, because we don't want to fall into the illusion that sometimes the South Node can bring us, but the reality of the depth of what's going on in relation to our worth and values. And sometimes that can be hard to sort of accept. So again, this is why, you know, the healing journey is paramount at the moment. There is that energy of change and transformation that we're all needing to navigate. So let me pull up the chart. Okay, so bear with me whilst I just bring this up on the screen and we'll have a look at that. Okay, so yeah, Venus in Taurus, and as I mentioned, for us in the UK and anybody that's on GMT or British Standard Time, 22:35 later this evening, 16th of March, we have Venus there at 0 degrees, having moved into Taurus. Also in Taurus, we have Juno, and we have the North Node as well as Uranus. So certainly change, that reality check in terms of our worth and values, and where do we need to show ourselves that love when it comes to our worth and values. This is a nurturing energy through the changes that we need to make, and it feels to be acceptance of our worth. I'm a great advocate for really believing that we are all sovereign souls and we all have a purpose here. And often, depending on our healing journey and on our journey generally, there are those that might not be aware of their sovereign strength within because of conditioning, because of other people's perceptions that they've taken on as their own, and the confidence, because that can be a factor when it comes to self-worth. If we have low self-esteem, low self-worth, we don't truly believe in our power. So the Venus energy moving into Taurus is assisting with that, you know, recognizing our worth and that recognition of our worth, should I say. And Juno also being there is again that divine feminine energy that's there to help with that nurturing. So I feel that's positive, but there is that reality check that's needed because of the healing energy that is there with Chiron and Jupiter. Wounds could have been expanded or certainly illuminated further to the full moon we had in Virgo, and then Saturn moving into Pisces on the same day. There could have been that massive wake-up call about lessons relating to our worth. It might have been a path that we didn't take because we didn't truly believe that we were worthy of it. And now we've got recognition of that. So Venus is there to support us through by almost giving us that hug and saying, you know, you've got this, you are worth so much more than you believe. You've got to believe that you are worthy of love, joy, and abundance, because we all are worthy of that. And recognizing the light through that, not buying into all the negativity, the limiting self-beliefs, but truly the light aspects of what we are worthy of as a divine sovereign soul. We know that with Aries energy, that is very much the warrior self. And it is the house of the self, because Aries rules the first house. So the self, what do we need to do? Aries energy, that fire energy, have the courage to go after it. The warrior, going after, fighting for what you want. And then the second house is, of course, Taurus. So Taurus rules the second house of worth and values. So after knowing what we want to go for, there's then that test of, do we feel worthy of that? Does it match with our values? And when we've got the North Node there as well, but we've got the South Node, of course, in the opposite sign of Scorpio, there is that sort of allusion to that, perhaps. There is a depth to this because of the Scorpionic energy, but the South Node can create that sort of haziness, that illusion, that deceptive energy somewhat. And it can mean that we're, of course, needing to find our worth and our strengths, and yet there is maybe an illusion of how deep this goes. But if we use that energy to work in harmony, it's recognition that we need to go deep to understand our worth. And a lot of what might have been coming up to the surface with all of this healing journey, sort of wounds or trauma bonds or attachment bonds being illuminated, what's the root cause? And we've got to go deep to understand what the root cause is. And as a result, we're gaining that wisdom, we're healing, we're processing. So it's great, it's working for us, but we have to go deep in order to understand that. And Pluto is certainly supporting that theory, because Pluto's at the end of Capricorn, about to transit into Aquarius on the 23rd of March, so very soon. And that is calling for the deep transformation, that deep purging of what isn't serving us, to transform it into something new, to transform it into something that's more in alignment for us. And of course, when he moves into Aquarius, that transformation relating to that freedom of self, almost needing to purge what isn't serving us so that we can truly be our free, authentic self, liberated, and that we're also connecting with the right individuals as well, because Aquarius is about connections. So there's a lot of transformation going on in terms of the energy, because we're healing, we're processing, we're being asked to transform, but we're being asked to go deep, and that can be uncomfortable. So just as Venus was in Aries, almost giving that hug to Chiron, and therefore giving that hug to us in terms of our wounds, now she's moved into Taurus to help us through understanding our worth, our values in relation to what we need to truly embody as our sovereign self. And knowing that Uranus is in the same sign as well, there needs to be a change, some kind of change. So if you're not feeling worthy, it's addressing the cause of that as part of the healing journey, accepting, processing, releasing, gaining the wisdom, becoming stronger, more resilient, and then recognizing and owning one's worth, feeling empowered within that as well. And then that's going to be the change that Uranus is calling for. That's going to be the transformation that Pluto is calling for. And it's also going to please Saturn, because it may be a lesson that relates to the time when he was in Aquarius, and all of this has been illuminated. And it's like, whoa, I didn't do that because I didn't feel worthy enough. Now I know what I've got to do. I've got to heal this, process it. It takes the time it takes, but then that's recognizing you're also completing a Saturn lesson as well. So there's big energy going on at the moment, and this is not to be, dismissed as something that's just a kind of a petty change. It's major transformation that's going on within people. And if you're sensitive to energy, then you might be feeling that from the collective, because there's certainly a lot of shifts going on at the moment within the collective because of this energy, because of the changes that we're all having to make. And connections are changing. Our relationships with people are changing. Our relationships with places are changing. Our relationships with things are changing. Our relationships with our thought patterns are changing. So this is all for our highest good, and we need to remember that, because it's been an intense journey and the energy is still somewhat challenging, but we can utilize it to work for us instead of thinking that it's working against us. Interestingly, we have in Pisces, as well as Saturn and the Sun, of course, we have Neptune conjunct Mercury. So Neptune, of course, in the home sign of Pisces, the ethereal, dreaminess, the mystic, and all of that. And certainly that quality of truly honing in on the intuition, because Mercury in Pisces, I've said it in a previous video, this, in my view, enhances our connection to source energy via our intuition, being the high priestess or the high priest of our own lives and connecting into our intuition, Mercury and Pisces energy, because our intuition is source. We are source energy, but truly trusting in our intuition. Our intuition is not going to guide us wrong, but we just might not want to hear what our intuition is telling us sometimes. So it's not that our intuition is guiding us in the wrong way, it's whether we're listening to it or not. So this Mercury in Pisces, since being in Pisces, I've always said it, that it is that connection to source, and truly going within and connecting with our intuition is powerful at this time, because it's that mystical, ethereal realm, it's the spiritual realm, and truly understanding our soul and our intuition in that way. It's our compass that guides us forward, our inner compass that guides us forward. And Neptune is there to support that energy. Of course, the shadow side, because there's light and shadow to everything, and that's just life. The shadow side to Neptune is that kind of deception or illusion. And remember, I was saying about the South Node as well. So there could be that essence of, okay, I know I've got to change something to do with my worth and values because of Uranus being in there in Taurus, calling for change. Venus is now there saying, look, I want to give you some nurturing energy to support you through this, but you need to really recognize your worth. And then we've got that sort of push-pull energy with, do I really want to go deep and understand why I'm feeling unworthy? Probably not. And therefore, almost deceiving ourselves with that Neptune and Mercury energy conjunct in Pisces. So that's the shadow side of it. But if we use this energy to work for us, then yes, we've got Uranus in Taurus calling for change, as it has been for a while. And we've got Venus there now to support us by showing ourselves, working with the energy to show ourselves that love, to see us through, to truly nurture ourselves, to understand why we've been feeling unworthy in order to make that change, going deep, even though it might be challenging, but connecting with our source energy within, via our intuition, and using that Neptune and Mercury energy that's conjunct there, next to the Sun as well, our soul, to truly embrace what our soul is guiding us in relation to our worth and values. If our intuition is telling us the truth by saying, okay, you've been deceiving yourself because you've been feeling unworthy when actually you are so worthy of this, and you've just got to step out of your comfort zone and go for it, girl. That could be what your intuition's telling you. And maybe the fears, if there's fears around accepting the depth of why you felt unworthy, there's almost that kind of covering over it. I don't want to deal with it. It's that deception of oneself, because then it's like, okay, I think my intuition might be telling me this, but I can't go that deep. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And that's why when we've got Chiron and Jupiter there in Aries, the healing within our warrior self, because we need the strength to get through this. We need the strength to recognize that we are worthy of great things. And anybody telling you that you are not is not correct, because we're all worthy of great things. We're not here just to play games. We're here to have amazing experiences on Earth, in this Earth school. You know, we are here. We are souls having an experience here on Earth in this lifetime. And why do you think we're here in this lifetime when all of this stuff is going on around us? Because we're pretty special. So we need to recognize that and believe it as well. But if that means going deep to address the root cause, maybe it's somebody from the past that said something to you, and that is really, really cut deep. And of course, then it's been layered on top of to keep it at bay. And this energy is calling for you to actually unravel those layers. And that's painful and that's challenging. But recognize the Venus energy is there to support us through this. The Venus energy is there reminding us to show ourselves that love, to recognize we're worthy, but to address where we've been feeling unworthy. And also, if something's not in alignment with our worth and values, this is the opportunity to also accept and acknowledge that, because it might have felt in alignment with worthiness, but as you've elevated, as you've ascended, it may no longer be in alignment, because you've recognized I'm worth more than that. So no, that's not in alignment with where I thought I was. That's progression for you. It just means that that thing, whatever it is, needs to be released. It's no longer serving you on your journey. And that's part of the change that Uranus is calling for. That's part of the transformation that Pluto is calling for. And it's also you using the Venus energy to nurture yourself through that, because you've recognized what's no longer in alignment with your worth and values, your true worth and values. North knows that in Taurus, true worth and values. Not what you feel your worth should be because of other people, what your worth and value is. Do people align with your values? Are those around you in alignment with values? So it's recognition of all of this, but certainly that Neptune Mercury conjunction in Pisces at this time of Venus going into Taurus is powerful, because when it's used on the light side, this is about that real connection to the spiritual source energy within to guide you through, to get to that root cause of what's been causing any snippet of unworthiness that just needs to be released, so you can feel worthy and move forward. Now, I will just say this, the moon at this time will be in Capricorn. So the moon is in Capricorn when all of this is happening. And that's, of course, not in its home. The opposite sign of Cancer is the moon's home. So we are in this kind of detrimental position here with the moon, because it's not going to feel comfortable in Capricorn. It's comfortable in Cancer. It's not comfortable in Capricorn. So there's a harsh energy to this. The moon, of course, represents our emotions and feelings. So this is why, again, going deep and understanding that root cause of why you might be feeling unworthy, or why you may have felt unworthy in the past, can be harsh on our emotions, because the moon is in Capricorn. So if you're feeling that as well, recognize that is also natural because of the energy at the moment. And the moon is in the same sign as Pluto. They're not, close enough to be a conjunction in my eyes. There's 9 degrees difference here, but they're still both in Capricorn. So you've got that, real deep pushing for transformation energy that Pluto's calling for. And then the moon is there almost having a bit of an uncomfortable feeling about going deep. And that could be something that a lot of people have been experiencing, certainly with all of this healing going on as well, because wounds have been coming up. And, that's tough to deal with. It's challenging to deal with, but it's something we can deal with because we are sovereign souls. And we need to remember that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stop sharing that one, and I'm going to pull up the UK chart. So this is something I just do to give a bit of an extra insight. And as I always mention, this is for this particular chart. Your chart's going to be different, of course, and take it how it resonates, because this is based on the UK's natal chart being the inner wheel, and then Venus in Taurus, 2235. Later tonight, 16th of March, on the outer wheel. So at the top, the yellow line there just shows where Venus is. So that's the 0 degrees of Venus entering Taurus. And as you'll see in the UK chart, this is happening in the 10th house. And that's where the healing energy is going on as well, because we've got Jupiter there, Chiron, we've got Vesta there, we've got Juno and the North Node. So there is still heavy feminine energy within the 10th house for the UK. And recognise that whilst Chiron is transiting through Aries in the 10th house, in the UK's natal chart 10th house, we've also got Chiron there at 1 degree. So Venus is conjunct Chiron, not an exact conjunction, obviously, but it's conjunct. And it will be shortly when it goes to 1 degree, but you know what I'm saying, is pretty close. So we've got that double Chiron energy going on, but Venus is there really supporting that healing aspect. And the divine feminine energy that's there with Juno and Vesta as well, just emphasizes that in my view. 10th house relates to work and also social status. So when it comes to worth and values in relation to a work setting or just in relation to social status, how you are in, in social situations, how other people might view you in social situations, has there been any element of unworthiness there? Because that's where Venus is going to be supporting that energy. And also because it's the same house for this particular chart that the Aries energy falls into as well, there is that element of expansion of wounds. There could be quite a lot going on relating to the sovereign self, all relating to social status. When it comes to Uranus energy, which is also Taurus, you'll see that it just falls into the 11th house relating to the UK chart, because as I mentioned, this is just for this chart. So that's about connections. The 11th house is about connections. What needs to change in our connections? We have Pluto transiting through the 7th house. So that is also transformation when it comes to relationships. So there is emphasis about a change up that's needed within connections, and particularly relationships with other people. It can also be, places and things, because we have relationships with places and things as well as people. But because we've got Uranus in the 11th house of connections, and that's connections with people, there is a heavier emphasis on that. So there is a lot of change going on within connections at the moment. And if it's not applying for you in your situation, you might just be aware of it going on in the collective. Take it how it resonates, of course. And with the moon being in Capricorn, as I mentioned just now, that's transiting through the 6th house in this particular chart. So that is still that Capricornian energy of the harshness relating to that, but could be impacting our well-being in that way, because that harshness of needing to deal with those emotions, especially if there is a need to go deep and that feels uncomfortable, could be something that kind of takes us by surprise and could be extremely emotional for us and can make us feel like we almost want to retreat. So when we think of the 6th house being, Virgo ruling the 6th house and all of that, think of the hermit in tarot. So there could be that feeling of wanting to hermit away because it's just too uncomfortable to deal with these emotions, that it's quite harsh. There's a harshness to it, because you've got the the Saturn energy and the softness of the moon there, and it just doesn't go. So it could feel quite harsh and quite challenging, and that feeling of needing to retreat. And when you think of daily schedules, daily routines, so it could be impacting on those. It might be that you can't focus on certain things because you've got these emotions that need to be dealt with. And that's again why Venus is there to support that energy within our worth and values, because if we can truly uphold our worth and we know what our values are, we're in alignment, we're fully in alignment, we can then be comfortable with our emotions, and any emotions that do come up to the surface can be purged, of course, released, because we need to allow that energetic space to be freed up. There's obviously a reason why we're upset and emotional, because these things need to be purged. And of course, a lot of past life stuff has been coming up within the collective. So it could apply to you, it might not, take it how it resonates. But that can be deep emotional stuff from past lives that's coming up to be released and transmuted. Again, with the Saturn transit into Pisces and these lessons being highlighted to us, a lot of this is coming up to the surface to be dealt with. and to be responded to. Now, I was also drawn to Lilith, of course. Lilith, who has now moved from Leo into Virgo, so into Earth energy. But because I always kind of feel that the Lilith energy can give an extra sort of layer to the healing journey, it can indicate sort of self-esteem, wounds, etc. And because we're looking at worth and values when it comes to Taurus and when it comes to Venus transiting through and the energy that we've got going on there, we've got now Lilith in Virgo. And for the UK in the second house, and the second house is worth and values. So there is that element, what I'm feeling intuitively, because Virgo energy can be quite critical of self, critical of others. They have a critical eye, basically, on situations. It can be people, can be relationships, etc., whatever it is. So there may be some aspect of one being rather critical on oneself because of everything that's coming up. So that is something that, of course, needs to be processed accordingly, to be accepted, because once acceptance is there, that's a big thing, actually. Once acceptance is there, we can then process and release. It's when we ignore it, that's when it can become more challenging. But if we recognize, okay, I am feeling like I'm really blaming myself, I'm being too critical on myself because I know my worth and values, and I really wish I hadn't listened to that person who told me I was worth nothing. I really wish I didn't. That's blaming ourselves. But it's part of the process that needs to be acknowledged in some cases. But instead of just saying, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, you know, it's my fault, why did that, you know, why did I let that person tell me I was worthless, because I've believed I'm worthless for all this time? That's accepting it in a way, but you could also, as part of that, be saying, okay, this is showing me where I have maybe been critical on myself, because yes, I did take on board what that person said to me, but now I've got the clarity that I've received that I am actually worth more than that. So that being said to me was certainly a test. It was a lesson for me. It's helped me grow. I expressed gratitude into it. And now I recognize I've been really critical on myself, and that needs to change. Again, Uranus energy change, Pluto transformative energy change. I need to change that. And that's when you can then transmute it. But it means you've accepted it. So you recognize it. You've had that clarity and you recognize it, and you can move forward. And certainly for the UK chart, you know, we've got Lilith there and the UK's natal chart moon. So again, really pushing the emotional boundaries there of the worth and values. So there could be that aspect of self-criticism coming up because of what others might have said to you. Now, the reality is, and it's easy to say this, but the reality is that that's that person's issue to deal with. If we have taken it on board because maybe we've been a bit sensitive at the time, or maybe we haven't fully grown through our spiritual journey, or maybe we've just believed everything that what people have said to us because we've not realized that we can empower ourselves, our sovereign self, through this, you know, life quest that we're on. If we've not realized that and we're only just discovering it, that's not a reason to be hard on ourselves, because we're now receiving the clarity. It's more about that person feeling the need to judge us or feeling the need to project their issues onto us. So we don't want to blame anybody. We certainly do not want to blame ourselves, because we know ourselves more than anybody else does. So if we know what our worth and values truly are, and I mean truly, use that Mercury in Pisces energy to communicate with your soul, to understand what your worth truly is as a sovereign being here on planet Earth. Connect in, use that mystical, ethereal energy, connecting to source. Truly understand your worth. That clarity comes in. You've got that aspect of, oh, now I've realized that didn't serve me, so I'm worth more than that. But I still put gratitude into that. I still send gratitude into that situation. I still send gratitude to that person, because although they hurt me, and these wounds have been coming up with the Chiron energy to show me that they hurt me, I need to send gratitude for that lesson, because as a result, I'm stronger now. And they've actually shown me how much worth I have for myself and how much they are not in alignment with me. So that's how you can use the energy to your advantage and empower yourself through this, because this is important. And Venus is there, divine feminine energy, to nurture us through these changes. All of the big energy going on, and Venus is right there to help us. And currently, and as I look at this chart particularly, we've got, you know, Venus, and either side we've got divine feminine asteroid energy. So it's almost like Venus is there, we got this. And then there's the two divine feminine asteroids saying, yeah, and I've got you as well, Venus. We're going to help. We're going to support this energy that Chiron has been bringing up, that Jupiter's been expanding. Because look at the other side of Jupiter, there's hope. There's hope for this healing journey. But we need to recognize that we are nurturing this energy. So us, ourselves, here on Earth, as above, so below, we can use that Venus energy to nurture ourselves through, show ourselves that self-love that we deserve and we are worthy of. And then we can process what we need to process as part of this healing journey, as part of this change that's being called for, as part of this transformation that's being called for. So I hope that resonates in some way. If it does, I hope it empowers you to truly understand your worth as a sovereign being on this planet, because we're all worthy of greatness. I'm just going to stop sharing. We're all worthy of greatness. And unfortunately, there are things that happen often outside of our control that test our worth and test our values. And that's how you need to see it, as a lesson, as a life lesson. We're in Earth school. So think of it in that way, as a lesson. And Saturn is certainly calling for that at the moment, being in the house of the divine. What is in true alignment with your soul, your values? What's your intuition telling you? Mercury and Pisces, connect in. Use that Neptune supporting energy as well, being in the home sign, of truly connecting into the spiritual realm of the source energy that's running through you. Powerful energy that is running through us. And we can utilize that for the good of ourselves. And when we do that, we emanate that. And that is what other people can see, because they can see our light and they can recognize, I can do that because that has shown me that I am strong. I am worthy of great things and I can do this. It's just being aware of where those Chiron wounds may have been coming up, certainly where Pluto is in your chart, where Saturn is, you know, what's Pisces for you? What area of your chart is that? Where is Lilith? Where are these potential self-esteem issues? Where's Taurus for you? You know, where do you really need to focus on your worth? We saw for the UK chart, it was the 10th house, work and social status. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So recognize where it is for you, where it resonates for you. If you think of Aries, so Aries rising or Aries sun in the first house, your second house would be Taurus. So that's going to be quite intense but powerful at the same time, because it means that you've got that energy of Venus being in Taurus, you've got Uranus in Taurus. It might not be in your second house though, and that's why natal charts are unique. So it's wherever they fall, of course, take that as it applies. But if you're using a general term of one house per sign, and I haven't even seen a chart that's like that, but if you're doing one house per sign, Aries is your first house as Aries rising and Aries first house sun. So Taurus is your second house. So that for an Aries, there's a lot going on with worth and values. And being an Aries as well, a sovereign leader of your own life, the warrior, all of that healing energy is going on in the first house of the self. So take it as it applies for you and your sign and you and your chart more specifically to get a deeper insight into that. Okay, to round things off, I'm going to just take a couple of cards from the Astro deck just to see if we've got any further messages for the collective. Let's see what we have. We've got this, got this. Venus is there to help us. Remember, with Mars in Gemini, still calling for that balance when it comes to taking action. But we're needing to sort out, we're needing to actually clean house at the moment. We're needing to sort out this transformation. And we're needing to process these wounds because, change is being called for on this planet anyway, globally, externally to what we're going through. Remember, our internal condition is reflected back to us externally. So all of this heavy, intense change we're feeling on the inside is being shown to us in situations on the outside. So think of what's going on in the world. There could be that feeling of chaos that's going on. There's a lot of that going on within us. We need to ground into the energy, use that Venus energy to support us when it comes to our worth and values. Because if we're feeling empowered and confident in that, we're going to see that reflected back to us in situations. There's going to be more value in situations that we see. But if we don't hold that value within, what are we going to see reflected back to us? And that's how we need to think about it. So just like I say, as above, so below, as within, so without. Okay, let's see what we have from the Astro Oracle. That one wanted to come out, and that one is Imam Kohli, if I've pronounced it correctly, but it has root on it. So this is very interesting because this one didn't want to go back in. And this is powerful because you think of the roots of a tree here. But also I mentioned earlier about getting to the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem when it comes to what has actually caused us to feel unworthy. What is it? And there could be resistance to that because it was in reverse. So that could be where there is hesitancy to connect to our intuition, to know the truth. But that's what Venus being in Taurus, of course, Uranus in Taurus and North Node in Taurus, it's calling for the truth of the matter when it comes to our worth and values. And once we can accept what's caused us to feel unworthy, then we're one step closer to being able to transmute it. But just don't fall into that Lilith trap of being critical on yourself if it's because other people have told you you're unworthy. No, no, no. Gratitude to be expressed. Thank you very much for that lesson. You're no longer in alignment with me, and that's fine. And what you said to me has only made me stronger. Okay, let's see if a card wants to come out for us. Another card. Because root pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? There we go. Okay. Oh, okay. We have opposition energy. Now see this on here, the butting of heads. So opposition, and immediately I was thinking of what was going on with the North Node and South Node because of the energy we've got in Taurus, of course. So confrontation, and because of the root being there as well, the root, the South Node, think of that being the root as well. There's almost that confrontation aspect and resistance to maybe going deep when it comes to understanding our worth and values and or the cause of what's made us feel unworthy. That's opposition energy, butting heads, not being able to resolve it sort of internally. Instead, we need to use that opposition energy to work for us and to actually embrace going deep, to cut through the illusion, the South Node, and the depths that that could have gone, and to recognize the truth of what our value is. Okay, one more. So that one's poking out. Oh, Aries, act. So there we go. We have that Aries energy, which is that warrior spirit, that sovereign energy there of Aries, first house, all about the self. So of course, The healing aspects of Jupiter and Chiron are still going on in Aries, but recognizing that is about sovereignty. That is speaking to me of sovereignty. And certainly on the bottom, yeah, 11th house community in reverse. So that is where, oh, we've also got South Node past, because that's the other aspect, you know, past. Let's not be nostalgic and cling on to the past or past lives. This is about processing the pain that might have been coming up from that and being able to move forward, using that Aries energy to have the strength to do that. But 11th house in reverse, that is all about community, that is all about connections. And as I was saying, for the UK chart particularly, and it could resonate for you wherever you are in the world, but certainly something needs to change in connections. So there is a need to change some connections, and you know, it could be that you're connecting to somebody that has made you feel unworthy, and that connection needs to finish. That soul contract has come to an end because you've realized the wisdom of what that person was teaching you, and now it's time to move forward and not hold on to the past of the illusion, but instead moving in the direction of where your community actually is, who is able to give that helping hand, rather than just showering the unworthiness comments upon you. You know, that's the best way I can use to describe it. If it is somebody that you're still connected to, even if it's somebody from the past that might have done that, you could still be energetically connected. So it's recognizing, is it still causing me a problem? And if it is, that cord needs to be cut. You know, that connection needs to be completed. That cycle needs to be completed, because you've learnt that wisdom from it. You've gained the clarity from it of what that's taught you. It's when we just kind of like put the blinkers on, we don't connect in with our intuition, and we walk around feeling unworthy because other people have told us in the past or in the present that we're unworthy, and we believe them. And we walk around not even recognizing that that is not the truth. So this is where the truth energy, in terms of our values, comes into it in Taurus, where things need to change relating to our worth and values. We need to own our worth and values. Anything that's no longer in alignment with that needs to be released as we move forward, because things are going to transform. Pluto is calling for this deep transformation, and this is tower type energy. So change is needed, and if change is needed, it's going to happen. So it's better to work with the energy and to recognize, because then you're also learning those Saturnian lessons as well. So hope that resonates for you. If it does, feel free to like this video. It just helps get the message out there to more people. And of course, I will be back for further reports, and we are getting closer to Aries season. So remember, you know, we saw Aries. So Aries is kind of, you know, that season that's going to be upon us. All of this work we're doing within the Piscean realm of that kind of subconscious aspect, and the healing that's going on during this time in the transformation is hopefully then going to allow us to then fully embrace Aries season, to go after what we want. But we need to feel empowered to do that, and we need to feel worthy of that, and we need to have our values in check, and to make sure that we're operating in true alignment and true integrity with our soul. Use that Mercury in Pisces energy and the Neptune in Pisces energy, Neptune Mercury conjunct, as I mentioned. Utilize that energy to truly check in with your source energy in order to guide you forward. So with that being said, sending you love and blessings, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Take care.